They betrayed me and stole my company. For years later, I walked back in as their new boss and fired them in front of everyone. My name is Lucas Grant, and I used to believe that loyalty meant everything. I was 24 when I co-founded a small tech startup called Nexentech with my best friend Jared. We started it in his parents' basement with nothing but 2 used laptops, 1 half-working router, and an idea: provide small clinics and community banks with reliable, low-cost IT support and infrastructure. Neither of us had degrees from top schools. I had dropped out of a local community college after 2 years because I couldn't afford tuition anymore. Jared had just been fired from a customer service job at a call center. We were broke, idealistic, and maybe foolishly ambitious. But we were good at what we did. I built the tools. Jared handled client communication. I worked 12 to 14-hour days managing servers, coding back-end tools, writing scripts to automate maintenance. Jared was the people guy: emails, handshakes, managing invoices. It was simple, small, but it worked. By the end of year 1, we had 6 paying clients and a reputation for being fast, honest, and personal. No call centers. No outsourced junk. Just us, 2 guys solving problems fast. Then in year 2, we landed our first big contract, a regional medical office with 12 branches. Suddenly we needed staff. We needed servers. Office space. It was no longer just the 2 of us. That's when Jared introduced Felix, his cousin. Felix had just finished his MBA and was looking for a ground floor opportunity. I didn't love his vibe, too polished, too salesman-y, but I trusted Jared, and Felix had one thing we didn't: investor connections. With Felix's help, we restructured Nexentech as an LLC with board voting rights and share distributions. Felix became the CFO, Jared remained the COO, and I was the CEO on paper, but only held 35% equity. Jared had 30%. Felix? 25%. The rest was distributed to early hires and silent partners Felix brought in. At the time, I didn't question it. I thought, we're building something bigger than all of us. This is what growth looks like. That was my first mistake. Within a year, the company exploded. Felix brought in investors, doubled our staff, launched new, AI-powered services. Most of it was flashy and half-baked. I warned against rushing features, but I was constantly outvoted. I still did the hard work, rebuilding broken systems, writing emergency patches, meeting with panicked clients. I spent more nights sleeping on the office couch than in my own apartment. Meanwhile, Jared started dressing in tailored suits. Felix stopped talking to tech staff and referred to our engineers as overhead. I didn't like where we were headed, and I made that known. At one board meeting, I pushed back on a proposal to white-label a product we didn't build. Felix laughed. "Lucas," he said in front of everyone, "maybe you're not thinking big enough." That phrase haunted me. 3 months later, I got the email. An emergency board meeting. No warning. No agenda. I walked in and saw Felix, Jared, 2 silent investors, and a lawyer I'd never met. "Lucas," Jared began, "we've decided the company needs a different kind of leadership moving forward. We're offering you a full buyout of your shares." I stared at him. "Are you firing me?" Felix smirked. "It's not personal. You'll be compensated. It's a generous deal." I couldn't believe it. Jared, my best friend, wouldn't even look me in the eye. I'd built the systems, the back end, the tools, the client platforms, every core element of the company. Now, they were pushing me out of my own creation. And I'd signed documents that gave them the power to do it. I took the deal. I had no choice. They paid me $300,000 for my shares. It felt like hush money. Blood money. I used it to pay off my debt, move to a small city in Colorado, and disappear. For 2 months, I didn't code. I didn't think. I just existed. Then one night, I saw an article about Nexentech online. Former startup darling struggles to deliver on promises. Clients were pulling out. Support complaints were skyrocketing. They had overhired, burned through capital, and were now desperate for growth that wasn't coming. That's when I started building again. This time, quietly. I rented a tiny workspace above a closed bar and called my new project PulsePoint, a streamlined IT diagnostics and automation tool designed specifically for small clinics and schools. Simple, scalable, fast, and I wrote every line of code myself. Within 9 months, I had 3 paying clients. In 18 months, I had 20. Year 2, PulsePoint had more than 50 clients, and several were former Nexentech accounts. I didn't poach them. I didn't advertise. They came to me, and then the real opportunity came. A venture capital firm approached me with interest in acquiring PulsePoint. I declined. But I did something better. I used the negotiation as leverage to open doors. Through a shell corporation, I started buying up Nexentech's unpaid debt, defaulted vendor contracts, and eventually some silent investor shares at discounted value. Over time, almost 3 years, I quietly assembled controlling interest, and then I scheduled a board meeting that I walked into the same room I had been kicked out of 4 years earlier. Felix's eyes went wide. Jared looked pale. They thought it was a coincidence. They thought I was just a consultant. Then I showed them the ownership ledger that I owned 52% of Nexentech. They were speechless. I built this company, I said, calm but direct. You tried to erase me. Now I own it again. Felix muttered something about rebuilding trust. I handed him an envelope. Your severance package, I said. Effective immediately, you're both terminated. Security escorted them out while staff watched in stunned silence. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just reclaimed what was mine.